Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another episode. My name is Andry, Vildak, and today we are joined by a special guest, as always. He's an actor. He's got a lot of great work under his belt. The War Below on Netflix, or BAFTA-Nominated film Northern Soul, just to name a few. He also runs a podcast, Life in Film, which is pretty similar to mine. Very good idea. Elliot James Langridge, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
How does it feel to be in the hot seat?
Yeah, it feels right. It feels easy. Like I think you got your notes there. You're preparing your vocal warm-ups. I'm just here chill.
You're just chilling.
I don't have to think about it.
So first, we're gonna start off pretty simple. So could you tell the listener who you are and where you come from?
Can I just check? If I'm talking down the barrel, is it this one?
Yeah, you can use that one. Yeah.
Cool. So sorry, what was the question?
Just tell the listener who you are and where you come from.
Basically, my name's Elliot Langridge. I'm from Kingston, which we were saying actually when I got here, arguing whether or not that was Surrey or London. I think it's Surrey. People get annoyed when you say it's but yeah, I'm from Kingston, and I've just always loved film. Mm-hmm. I've always been fascinated by how they're made, watching them, just love it. So it's quite it was something I was always gonna want to be involved with, behind or in front of the camera.
How was it growing up in Kingston? Are you good friends with Tom Holland as well?
Oh yeah, he's from there, isn't he? Yeah, there's a couple of actors from Kingston. Unfortunately not, no. Tom Holland's a little bit younger than me, so I think we didn't hang out. But no, Kingston, I mean, I was born there, and it was kind of, anyone that knows Kingston, the Bendel Centre, great place, great shops. But yeah, no, I grew up around there, and it's good because you can get into London easy, and quite a nice place to live, I'd say. Mm-hmm. But I grew up because I went to schools all over the place. I mean, one might get into that, but I went all over the place. So I went further out of London. I went to loads of different schools.
Okay.
So Kingston was a little blip in my childhood, and then moving around.
Okay, and then life took you back there later.
Yeah, I'm kind of around there now. Yeah, similar sort of area.
Yeah, okay, not that I want to expose your location like immediately, but
exact location.
Let's delve right into your acting journey as well. When was that moment when you realized that you loved telling stories and kind of acting in front of camera?
Speaking of the many schools I went to, the last school in particular, which was a school called Morehouse School, was great for drama. They had a really good drama sort of set up there, and we did a lot of plays, and I think that was the moment that I really sort of got into playing roles and just sort of immersing myself in different characters and things like that. And they really gave me a good opportunity to play loads of different things. And from growing up with both my parents were in the film industry, my dad was a cameraman and my mum makeup.
Okay.
You can see how that happened. So them having that background and having been on sort of sets growing up as well with them, all of those things came together for me to kind of just be really interested and want to get involved in the film industry in whatever way I could, really. Not even just acting. I think, early on it was like, I just want to be on a film set. I want to be involved.
Okay, so would you say that, when we talk about people who have inspired you, you would say your greatest inspirations have been your parents?
Yeah, both my parents and seeing obviously the ups and downs of being freelance. So, I saw the good and the bad, of, like being out of work and having to move around and things like that. But then also the excitement of being on a set and creating something and then that collaboration that you get, like being on a set and it's like a family. So seeing that early on, I was like, yeah, I want a piece of that.
So what kind of action did you start to take once you realized that, okay, there must be a way to it? So what was the first kind of step to becoming a professional in this field?
I wasn't going to say this, but it's just a funny one. But very first step wasn't my own. I feel like, going, as I say, like, and seeing my dad working on sets, and he was doing a BBC drama called Runway 1 in 1993-4, so we're going back.
The good old days.
The good old 90s, yeah. And I very vaguely remember this, but it's still my first IMDb credit.
Okay.
But yeah, because I came to set and I was obviously very young. I'm not that old, so I was very young at that point. And my very first role was being an extra on that. And it was like this drama with Peter Capaldi in it. And like, obviously at the time I wasn't aware of who that was or what was going on really. And I remember I got paid like £20 and I was over the moon.
Yeah.
And I bought some toys with it, and I was like, this is where I need to be.
To get more toys, I need to act.
yeah, exactly. That was like the very first thing, but really, I mean, that doesn't really even compute when I think about my career, because when I left school, and I'd been doing plays at school and I loved that, I was thinking, right, how can I get my foot in the door? And at the time, as I said before, it was like, do I want to be an actor? Do I want to maybe go into camera? There was a point where I wanted to go into makeup. To my dad's dismay, he was very disappointed that I would go after my mum's career instead of his. But then I did initially go into camera, and I did like short films. I did any job that I could, and this is when I'd just come out of school. And I was working in the supermarket at the time, so I was then trying to do these jobs in between. And just writing off to people and trying to get my foot in the door anywhere I could. Be a runner, be a T-boy, whatever it was. And I was very fortunate that one of my dad's friends, Kim, who's a great guy. He sadly passed away recently, actually. But he was a real mentor. He was working on Harry Potter.
Okay.
Massive fan of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And when I heard this is like he's a family friend that I've known since I was like a little kid. And
so casually at a dinner table, I'm working on Harry Potter.
Yeah, I just hassled.
Big film.
I hassled him. The minute I found that out, I was like, sorry, well. And so I was just like, is there any way I can get any sort of work experience or anything on this? And like, umming and ahhing, he'd already been on it. I think the film had been going for a month or so. This was the 5th one, Order of the Phoenix. And he was like, I think we can get you on for a week. I was like, yes, amazing. Over the moon. At this point, I'm like 18, probably 18, 19, 18. And so, I got to go onto the set, and it was just insane. It was the free tour of the sets without paying for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before they did all of that, you have to now pay to go and see them. So I was just like over the moon, and I remember the first day on set, I wasn't getting paid to be there. I would have paid to be there. I came on set, and I remember seeing Michael Gambon, obviously plays Dumbledore, Daniel Radcliffe, and they were doing the scene in the headmaster's office, and I just walked in and I was watching it, and I think that was one of the first moments that I realized one of the first days in the camera department as the kind of, the T-boy, I was like, nah, I want to be in front of the camera.
Okay.
I was watching them and I was like, this is amazing, like a real masterclass. And then I noticed that Michael Gambon was reading his lines from a board that Daniel Radcliffe was holding down here.
Really?
I was like, you can do that?
Wow.
So I was that moment, I was like, being dyslexic, I was like, you can be helped like that, where you can have a visual aid. I mean, obviously you have to be probably Michael Gambon to have that clout to be able to get away with that. But it was an everlasting impression on me seeing that.
Wow, what a privilege. So what was the role again you had there? Like assisting with something camera? Yeah,
I was essentially the camera guy, lowest of the low, like the guy that will go and do anything.
Brings the tape and stuff.
Yeah, bring the tape, bring the lenses, get us a coffee, get us a donut, whatever it was. So it was a great time. And what actually happened was I was meant to be there for a week, and I just did my best. I tried to show that I was there and I was there to help, and be worthwhile me being there. I ended up being there for like a month or so.
Wow.
So they just kept on saying come back after every week. And then I ended up basically doing the rest of the film. So I stayed there and I was the camera guy, and I just sort of hung around for as long as I could. And then an opportunity came up where one of the sort of, the bottom of the mill camera trainee guys went off to do another job. He had to leave, or there was a reason that he was going off to do something, I can't remember, and I essentially stepped into his role. So I ended up being a trainee,
so you got upgraded.
Yeah, upgraded, and didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I blagged it. I acted my way through the part, trying to pretend. But it was it was amazing, and it wasn't like I look back and I go, that was a magical time. I didn't know what I was at the time. I knew how amazing that opportunity was, and it was just it was incredible. Bit of a rough way to start though, because you kind of go, I've walked on this set. Like, I'm in where I want to be, and I think seeing those actors, those heads of department, everyone there, the director, producers, and all that, seeing them all at the top of their game, it was like, that's where I want to be. And then actually after that, it's quite hard because you're like, that's the pinnacle, seeing all those people doing exactly what they want to be doing, what they love. And then you've got to start again. Yeah. And realize that you've got a long way to go until you get to that point. Nonetheless, it was an amazing opportunity.
So would you say on that set, you were like, okay, I want to be in front of the camera, I want to do acting?
Yeah.
So what steps did you take to get closer to that dream? Did you take any classes?
I did various classes. I went to the Actors Center. I would do various, like go to RADA for like a day course or whatever, and do all these things. And at the time, I wanted to go to drama school. And I really, as an actor, yourself, you look at the big ones like Lambda, RADA, and you're like, I want to go to one of them.
Yeah.
But I was kind of talked down from doing that by my drama teacher before I left school. She was like, being dyslexic and you struggle with learning your lines, you need a bit more time than other people. It might not be the best thing to do. So just be careful what your next step is. And that's why I went into, just getting on a set and trying to get nearer the people that I wanted to be around. But being on that set, the set of Harry Potter, I realized that I was around those people that could make this happen. So I would tell anyone and everyone, probably really annoyingly, being a teenager, that I wanted to be an actor. And I essentially, I can't remember how it happened. There was a very a lovely guy that would do the behind the scenes on the film, and he was like, oh, see, you want to be an actor? I mean, I know this agency. They he basically set me up with this modeling agency. So I started doing, seems ridiculous now, but it was like, I found this, this, and I was like, okay, great, brilliant. And so I got my first agent, which was essentially a modeling agency, which was like not quite right, but it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly.
So when I don't know if I'm just going off on one here, but like once I left that film, and I had an opportunity which I actually regret a little bit now. I never say you want to regret things, but basically one of the other guys on Harry Potter, one of the camera guys, Frank Ferrari, he's got a great name.
Powerful name.
Yeah, powerful. He needs to be an actor with that name. He was going on to do another film after Harry Potter, and I mean, at the time we knew that it was going to be big because it was basically the sequel to to Batman Begins. So, but at the time, no one knew it was going to be like Heath Ledger, like massive, this huge life-changing film. And he was like, "Do you want to come on as my trainee, basically, on this job?" And I was like, "I would love to. That would be amazing." But essentially, what happened was, with the agency, I ended up starting getting auditions and work, and it was a lot of commercials and stuff. And I started working, and it was kind of like, do I wholeheartedly take that, or do I then go and do The Dark Knight, which would have been amazing? Yeah. There was a crossroads.
So a hard decision. So what did you do?
So I took the acting, which I kind of feel like I could have done The Dark Knight and
could have done both. Yeah.
But at the time, I was so keen to sort of start my journey as an actor that I mean, if I hadn't have done it, would have actually changed everything. Thinking about it, because one of my first modeling jobs, it was a commercial it was like Eon Electricity. It was like a billboard thing where I'm like jumping on a trampoline, and it's like was with Elaine Constantine, who directed Northern Soul, which is a film I did many years after me. And that was my very first sort of job in front of the camera. And if I hadn't had that agency and I hadn't gone off and started working straight away, I would have never met her. So that was kind of a sliding doors moment, really. Yeah,
true. We'll get back to the Elaine moment later. But first off, you did a couple of TV shows. and then you got a chance to audition for Hollyoaks, or at least you got a part in Hollyoaks. I don't know how did you manage to get that role, but how did that opportunity come along?
I've been acting for quite a few years, just auditioning, and I didn't really, starting out, I didn't really know how hard it was going to be. I was just kind of throwing myself into it, auditioning for stuff, not getting anything. It was all really hard, like, just thought, God, and I'm starting to question myself. And I started getting, mainly commercials, which was great because back then they were paid. Now it's still good money, but back then it was like ludicrous. Hollyoaks was one of the first sort of big, in terms of like a long job. And I basically went in for an audition, and it was a tiny role. I think it was a 2-line thing.
Okay.
Maybe even, it might have been 1 line. It was a really small role, and I was completely wrong for it. It was, and like, I'm bigger now than I was then, but the description, and I'm still slim, but at the time it was like bulked, stocky, muscly, like this. I was just completely wrong. I was like proper skinny, like 18, 19-year-old, and I was like, this is not, I'm not getting this. And
so your headshot gave an impression that you're this like huge bodybuilder,
thick neck or something. I don't know. No, I think my agent at the time, and this was an acting agent at this point, that I got partially because of the other agency, and they were working alongside each other begrudgingly, I think. But they got me this audition, and it was just a sort of piss in the wind. Go up to Liverpool, and essentially I went in there, and there's like all these buff guys, just like jacked up. They all looked about 30 as well. I was like, I am not getting this. And so we're all in this room, all these guys that are just better looking, more bulk. Just that I was like, nah. And I'd driven up to Liverpool, and my dad come up with me, and it was kind of, felt a bit of pressure. And I remember, I don't know if it changed the outcome of the audition, but my dad was like, oh, wear my jacket. It might make you look a bit older. Because I think we kind of got an impression that everyone was going to look a bit more manly than me. And so I wore this baggy jacket to try and hide the fact I didn't have any sort of guns. And I went in there, and there's loads of people there. And we went in, and I've actually never seen this before or since. They got us to stand up in a line, and there was like 5 or 6 of us at a time. Bearing in mind the room's like about 100 people in the other room, 5 or 6 of us at the time, and they got us to read the line, just one after another.
So at least you stood out. There is like this 4 big looking bodybuilders and then skinny guy in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that might have been what did it. But in my dad's jacket, it probably made it even skinnier than I was. And like we all read the line. And like, the casting director and the producers and stuff were there, and they were like, great, and next. And then they started bringing all the other people, and I thought, well, I've got to do something to stand out here. And I can't remember what I said, but I cracked probably a really bad joke, and I did it as I was leaving, and the casting director laughed, and she was like, sorry, what was your name? And I was like, oh, I'm Elliot. And then I had a little moment. I clasped hold of it like I had done at the beginning, being on the film set of Harry Potter. I was like, any opportunity, take it. So probably quite desperately. I think I somehow stood out there. Thought nothing of it. And then I was unemployed, out of work, skint. And I think, I can't remember why now, but I remember where I was. I was going up to because my mum, she just retired, but she used to do the 10 o'clock news at the BBC, like the makeup. And I was going up with her for some reason to work. I think probably because I had nothing better to do. And so I was going up with her just to sort of have a day out. And we're in the car on the way out there. And just get this call from my agent. And she's a bit delirious. She's like laughing down the phone. She's like, I don't know how you've done this. And this was like 2 months, probably, maybe even more, after I'd auditioned for it. So I'd completely forgotten about it at this point. And they were like, so we got a call from the casting director from Hollyoaks. And I was like, Hollyoaks? Oh, right, yeah. Thinking, that was ages ago. That part definitely shot now, because I remember the dates were like, definitely shot that part. I'm not getting that role either. And she said, they've written you a role, and you're getting a 3-month contract as a trial. I was like, sorry? What? And it was like, it was just insane. I was like...
So they wrote a role just for you?
This is what they said at the time. I don't know if my agent was blowing smoke on my ass, but I think basically, I don't know how it works, but at the time they seemed to, with Hollyoaks, they were bringing in a load of new characters that were students. And there was about 5 or 6 different roles that were coming in all together as like a new sort of gang. And it was around the time that Skins was really popular. And I think I just went in looking that age range and maybe looking right for that. And they were obviously right, like thinking of those roles when I came in for the other one, which was months before. So, and then they wrote this role around the way that I acted in the audition, apparently. But
wow.
So it was, again, sliding doors, very, very lucky. And just, a real moment of like confusion, really. But great. And, you know, later down the road in your career, you kind of realize how those moments are massive. Like at the time, it felt like, wow. But now I'm like, that was a real, like, I could have gone to the toilet at a different time that day and it would have changed that. Do you know what I mean? It just feels like real butterfly effect moment. So so thankful for that. That was mad.
And was that a straight offer as well, or was it like you had to audition?
No,
like,
I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. Actually, I think the funny thing was as well, I'd always like, now I don't think like this, but as a teenager, I was always like, I don't want to do soaps. I want to do films. Like, you know, aspirations of me very green. I'm always like wanting to be at the top of the thing before you've even begun. And my mum said to me, she was like, I thought you weren't going to do any soaps. I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. So that was a learning curve.
So how long was that contract?
So at first it was 3 months. And, you know, like, to talk about the dyslexia a little bit, when I started that job, I was struggling because I'd done, I think at that point, I'd done 2 lines in Primeval. I'd done an episode of The Bill, maybe a few other little bits and bobs, a short film, stuff like that. I had an extra part in Harry Potter. That was my very first role, but it was literally in the background. You don't see me.
Okay.
But I used that. I went into auditions and I was like, I'm in the new Harry Potter film.
Nice.
Do you know what I mean? Before it came out. Then they're like, where are you? But yeah, so what was I saying? So basically,
something about dyslexia.
Oh, dyslexia, yeah. So, hang on, what? Yeah, I can't even think what I was actually.
What dyslexia?
What was it? Yeah, what was I? I don't have dyslexia. No, I have memory loss. What was I saying?
I mean, that's fine. We're going to come back to dyslexia later anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you go off without that. But how did it feel to work on TV with a kind of longer contract than usual and kind of having that paycheck, let's say?
You've reminded me of what I was saying, actually, because it was kind of about that.
Okay.
So when I started Hollyoaks, it was a bit of a culture shock, having not done much at all at that point. Going there and suddenly having to learn a lot of lines. Like, that sort of TV, I didn't realise at the time how quick it is. And like, you know, sometimes with Hollyoaks, we would be doing up to like 12 scenes in a day. And you think, you watch something like that and you don't think, oh, there's not much heavy dialogue. But when you're doing 12 scenes, that kind of builds up.
Yeah.
So like, I really struggled with the learn lining, and it wasn't until I was like, you know, 6 months in that my brain had got used to it. And it's kind of like muscle memory, like going to the gym, isn't it? Your memory gets better and you kind of learn things easier. But at first they were like, oh, we're worried that you're not gonna like learn. I was really struggling. And then they had like actually really great, like the production company had a guy that would help some of the younger actors, because there's a lot of teenagers on that show and people that hadn't acted before, and this coach that would help you with learning techniques for learn lining and line learning, and he was really great. And it was kind of like, I had a bit of a warning shot where they're like, you need to like go to this guy, get better at learning your lines. And I did. Like, I worked really hard. But as I say, it was going from like, you know, just school plays to, oh, they're paying me to do a good job now, like a bit more pressure. And, you know, I remember a particular moment where all the lines, I knew the lines, but they left my head.
Oh, yeah. Know that moment.
Yeah, every actor's been there at least once. And Ashley Taylor Dawson, who's like a staple of Hollyoaks, like lovely guy. He was like, mate, just take a minute. Let's just go over here. Let's just chill out. It's all good. He had me, man.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that. And he was actually in Northern Soul. So like I felt like I wanted to like somehow not pay him back, but like I wanted to be there for him like he was there for me. So I managed to get him in for an audition for Northern Soul, and he got the part, smashed it.
Oh wow.
So it was like that moment I was like, oh, man, that's what I needed. I needed someone like that to help me. I was struggling but got through it. And I think once you're on the show like that, you kind of, after a while, your brain just gets used to it. But yeah, at first it was a bit like, oh, what am I doing? And it was fun.
That's very nice of him, because especially when you're an unknown actor, kind of in the industry, and you get this part. It's so easy for them to not give a shit. You don't know your lines. Fuck off. Nicely saying. But they help you so much.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky thing, because you're like, no, I really have, but like my brain's gone to scrambled egg. Do you know what I mean? And now, like, further down the line, you learn techniques to get past that. And now that doesn't happen to me anymore, but it still worries me that it might.
Yeah.
You still got that. That happened once.
We're going to come back to all the tips and stuff later on. So yeah, don't think that I'm just skipping things, important points. After a long run in Hollyoaks, you shot your debut feature film, which is BAFTA-nominated film called Northern Soul. And you got the nice opportunity to play the lead. How did that opportunity come along?
So yeah, it was a long old journey, but essentially I met Elaine, as I mentioned, on this job, which was like a billboard job. It was through my modeling agency, so it was kind of potluck. And I just remember her saying to me, like, we were doing these photos where I'm jumping up and down on the trampoline, and she was like, oh, you're very agile. Like, do you do like gymnastics? I was like, yeah, I do gymnastics. Thinking, could there be a job opportunity?
Yeah.
Just bullshit my way through that one. And we were chatting, and she was really lovely, down to earth. And she was like, oh, you look like John Clark. I remember her saying that and being like, who the fuck's John Clark? And she essentially, like, she explained she'd been writing this feature film, and like she explained all about Northern Soul, and I had no idea what any of that was and what it meant. And she's like, oh, I think you look right for this role. You're really like exactly what I've been picturing. And I had quite long hair at the time. God knows why, it looked terrible. But it was right time, right place, right hair.
Yeah.
Being skinny and not bulked up was a good thing at that time as well. And so she was like, I'll send you the script, and we stayed in touch, and I didn't really hear much for a while. And I thought, well, you hear a lot of things, as you know, in this industry, people are about, I'm doing this film, I'm writing this, I'm doing that.
Everybody's writing something,
and you got to take it with a pinch of salt. So I did, and I was like, yeah, okay, cool, like if something comes of it, then great, I'm down for it. Sounds wicked.
Yeah.
And she eventually, she sent me, well, she didn't send me the script. She's like, come to my house and I'll give you the script and you can go read it in Pizza Express down the road. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's like Christopher Nolan, hand delivers and red ink.
But she had a hard copy. She wouldn't like email it to me. I was like, all right. So little did she know, I went down to Pizza Express for about 4 hours because I'm, as I've mentioned many a time, dyslexic. So it took me a while to read it. And, I'm just trying to take the script in, and I'm like, and she's at the time, she's not by any means offered me the role or anything like that, but she's like, you look like this lead role in this film. I'm thinking, holy shit, I'm reading this going, this is amazing, and from what I can read of it, it looks great. But essentially this was while, like, right at the beginning of my career. You got to think I was 18, 19 when I met her. We didn't shoot it until I was 25.
Okay, yeah.
So I was in for the long haul. I didn't know that, and I'm, don't regret any of it because the film, I'm very proud of the film. But yeah, no, all that time I went off, and obviously I did Hollyoaks, I did a few other jobs, and when I got offered Hollyoaks, she was like, we're going to shoot this film next year. You can't go and do Hollyoaks. You can't do it. And I was like, like, obviously the film, that would be amazing, but there's no guarantees. There's never a guarantee of these things. And I was just like, I'm going to turn down more money than I've ever earned. Never earned any money. Like, I'm going to turn this down. Is this insane? And, you know, I spoke to my friends and my family, and one of my mates, I think it was what swayed me. He was like, mate, you're going to be a millionaire. I was like, at the time I was like, am I? No. But maybe that's what swayed me. I was like, maybe I should go for the money. Not by any means was it that much money, but like to me at 19, it was an insane amount of money. And so, you know, going off and doing that, I thought, well, I've blown this film then. But we stayed in touch, and you know, I got offered another year at Hollyoaks, and she was like, don't take it. After I'd done like a year.
Yeah.
And she's like, don't take it. We're going to shoot the film next year. But it was always next year. Yeah. So I didn't take the other year. I took 3 months of that contract because I thought, okay, right, I've had I've made a bit of money, and I've had fun, and it was such a good time. But if I'm going to do this film, I can't then go, no, I'm going to do another year of Hollyoaks. So I turned that down, took 3 months of it. And then actually the producers did a massive cull of the show and fired like half the cast. And they kept me because I only had a 3-month contract left. But if I'd gone for the year, maybe I would have been culled, fired anyway. So I don't know, who knows?
So there was no guarantees anyway?
No. So they changed it up massively. They brought in a producer from EastEnders and like killed off like major characters. So who knows what would have happened there, but essentially I was working and trying to learn dance and learn the northern accent, all these things that I was trying to learn for Northern Soul while I was doing Hollyoaks, and then left Hollyoaks. The 3-month contract ended after that, and I was like, great, so we shooting it this year? And she's like, oh, next year. I'm like, fuck, okay. And then I don't think I worked for 2 years.
Okay.
And it was hard. And at that time I was training really hard to be this character. I was learning to dance. I'd lost weight because they were like, you need to look like you're doing speed all the time.
So you stayed like that for like 2 years?
I pretty much, because I was
ready to go.
It's happening next year. But the mad thing was that I would say, like, to put into perspective now, I'm just over 11 stone now, and I got down to just under 9. So I wasn't heavy to start with anyway. I'm not heavy now. And to lose all that weight and to maintain it was just insanity. But I thought I was Robert De Niro, and I was determined to do it in any way that I could. And it went on and on and on. And eventually I had a sort of lunch with Elaine, and she sat me down, and she was like, this is after like 2 years of training. And I was like, and the character's meant to be 16. I was 25 at this time. Yeah. And I'm thinking, there's got to be a cut-off for this. And
you were getting too old.
Yeah, getting too old. Delayed too long. And I'm there like depleted. And she sat me down and she was like, we've got investors, and we are actually going to be greenlit, but the one thing is that they want a name in the lead. And so this is one of those things where you hear a lot, like, you know, going for jobs and stuff, you end up hearing that some big name's got it or whatever. So I just thought, I'm going to get picked to the post again. Haven't worked since Hollyoaks. Maybe this is it. This is the end of the run. But that lunch, I stood up for myself, and I was like, no one else, I might have used different words, but basically, I was like, there's no one else that can do this job. Look at me. Look like at
all on the bones and skin.
Yeah, hair. I've learned to dance for like 2 years. I'm down to the way. I'm shoot this tomorrow. I know the character inside out. I've learned to do an accent that I was awful at first. Yeah. And all these things. And then she kind of just looked at me and was like, okay. It was almost like she was all in, I was all in. Yeah. And it was I was like, I'm doing this role. And luckily Elaine had my back, and she doubled down. She was like, Elliot has done all this training, he's doing this role. And I can't remember if it was Universal or which company it was that was it might not have been, I think Universal came in later for distribution, but whoever it was, they were like, okay, so we're going to now cast people around the two leads that are better known.
Okay.
So that's when Steve Coogan and, you know, the rest of the cast came in, and we were like, oh, this is amazing. These are incredible people, and people like Antonia Thomas came in and auditioned for it, and she was amazing, and they essentially, built the film around me and Josh Whitehouse, who plays the other lead, and we were finally like doing this film, and it was pretty mad to like, you know, have 2 years off.
Yeah,
and like I couldn't really afford to do classes or anything. I was so broke because I'd not to go too deep into the sort of financial woes, but like when I left Hollyoaks, I saved every penny I could to afford to buy a flat, and you know, it was either that or a really nice car. Luckily, I used my brain and I bought the flat, and I essentially had this big old mortgage, still have a big old mortgage, and was renting out the rooms. And in between acting jobs at that time, I mean, even now, like I go and do odd jobs, like you got to pay the mortgage somehow. And waiting for those acting jobs is sometimes just not an option. And particularly at this time, I was like doing any and every job. It was like working in bars, working in silver service and all kinds of things, waitering. One of my jobs that I lasted for a day because it was so horrendous was cleaning out portaloos for builders' portaloos. It was just like, nah. So like I did every job known to man, and it was only that I can't remember why this connected. Were we talking about actually shooting the film
in between Northern Soul and Hollyoaks?
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, when Northern Soul finally got greenlit and we were like, is this actually happening? You know, you've waited, well, I guess it was like 6-7 years from being 19 to 25. And suddenly you're doing this film and it's over in like 6 weeks. You're like, well, what now? Right? Do you know what I mean? Like, but no, it was insane. And actually, because we'd done so much prep for it, we'd done all the training for years, all those things, we'd all got to know each other really well. Apart from obviously all the cast that came in sort of the usual way they do it through the casting director, you know, a couple of weeks before we shot. But the core group of people that were there from the beginning, I mean, not from the beginning because I think I was the only one there at the beginning of the lane. But, you know, people came in at different times. And, you know, shooting that film was just insane. It was everything I wanted it to be and everything I hope a job to be. And I was just kind of greenly at the time thinking, oh, well, this is it. Like, I'm a lead in a feature film. It's got a great cast. I think it's a good script. You never know until you see it. And I remember the first time I watched it, I was like disappointed. I'm like,
really?
It's not, because you build something up in your mind.
I mean, yeah, you've been building up the hype for 5, 6, 7 years.
You know, I thought it was going to be the next Train Spotting. Do you know what I mean? But you know, that was the first experience of it, and I've grown to appreciate it. And I think Elaine did such a good job. We did the 10-year anniversary screening end of last year.
Wow.
And so proud of that film. Watching it now, I'm like, I can watch it as a film. You know, the first time I saw it, all I could see was like what I'd done wrong, or what we did that day, what I had for lunch, or like, and yeah, no, it was a wonderful experience. It was hard. It was really, really hard. The training leading up to it was the hardest, but the shoot was easy in comparison to that. But yeah, like even I think it was within a month of shooting it, I broke my wrist, hand, and some of my fingers. And had to just pretend it hadn't happened. No one knew I'd done it.
Oh, really?
And
so it happened outside?
It happened outside of training, yeah. I won't go into what happened. That makes it sound really bad. It's not bad. But essentially, yeah, I had to take the cast off and pretend it was all fine.
Wow.
And no one knew I'd broken it until we were on set. And then it was too late. Okay. So I was there and I couldn't do some of the, like there was some moves that were like handstands and stuff and I couldn't do them, which is really unfortunate. A lot of things I trained to do I couldn't do. But I was just glad that we were there and we were shooting it and it was all good. And yeah, very proud of that film.
yeah, I guess that's the most preparation you'll ever get for a role, right?
Yeah.
So
You'd never get that again.
yeah. So would you say you felt like ready to go and act
Yeah.
in a lead role?
100%. The adrenaline and like walking on to the set when we had like hundreds of extras. It was meant to be like Wigan Casino in the 70s. We're there and we're walking out and we're doing this big scene where I'm dancing and stuff, and it was like obviously scared and like, you know, nervous, but felt so ready for it. Never felt that ready for a role because it's you just don't get that preparation. You know, I've done roles where, you know, I've replaced someone at the last minute and they're like, yeah, can you come in at the end of the week and do this, and here are the scenes. And you're like, holy shit. So lovely to have that. It felt like theatre almost, because you're just like, I got loads of time to rehearse, get ready for it. But yeah, no, and you know, I've done films since that have been great experiences, but that really was a unique experience.
So when the film finally came out, were you surprised by the success of it? Because, you know, it was distributed by Universal, and all of that, and, you know, the BAFTA nomination. So how was that experience for you?
The mad thing is, I look back at that now and I think, wow, amazing. It did so well. And, you know, we were meant to be in 5 cinema screens in the UK. And because of the following, the Northern Soul, like, there's people love it. People love the music. And because of that, they complained that it wasn't in enough screens and that they couldn't see it up north, or like it wasn't near in their local town. And thanks to the Northern Soul like followers, they got it from like 5 screens up to God knows like hundreds of screens. So really a lot of the success is down to them, because Universal didn't give it much of a chance. And you know, we were suddenly in all these screens, and then that meant that we were eligible for the BAFTAs, and that was all amazing. And at the time, again, me being very green, I was mid-20s. In fact, no, I wasn't actually. I was a bit older because it took a while to come out, but I was still like, oh, this is how it works. You know, you do a film and you're the lead in it and it does really well. And like, you know, you learn further down the line. That was a bit of a fluke, but yeah, because we went to Toronto Film Festival and promoted it there, and there was like blocks of people queuing up to see the film, and it was just insane.
Yeah. And
at the time we all took it in our stride, and we were like, this is amazing, but we kind of didn't really register that, no, this is unusual. This is really unusual for a film of that budget. It was only 1.3 million all in, like, and with that, because a lot of the people did it for very little money, the bigger names did it for nothing. And yeah, we were very lucky, and I'm still amazed at how well it did now, and the fact that people are still talking about it 10 years later is just insane. Like that's amazing. It's all I've ever really wanted to do as an actor, is to do film that people will watch and enjoy from years from now, you know. Yeah,
that's the main thing, to create a legacy, I guess, right? So how much do you think this film in particular influenced your kind of the course of your acting journey? You know, did you start seeing different opportunities, auditions?
Yeah, 100%. And again, you can keep looking back and going, I didn't realize at the time, but like you know, suddenly there were more opportunities. I signed with a bigger agent. I was signed with Curtis Brown, and I got an American manager, and it like everything, you know, there was insane things were happening. Like I remember Elaine got a letter from Ridley Scott saying that he'd watched the film and he loved the performance in it, and he wanted to meet us all, and it was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it was amazing. It was an amazing time. And you know, you make decisions. I went with a certain manager, or like I did a certain job or whatever it was, and you make those decisions, and now you can look back with foresight and go, oh, maybe I should have done something else, or maybe that wasn't the best thing to do, or that was a good idea. So it's difficult to say, but you can always look back on it and go, oh, maybe I would have done that but differently. But I never regret, because I think you never know, doing a job or not doing a job, or screwing up an audition, it can mean you're around for something else that you didn't see coming. But it was amazing, and it was really nice to go to the premiere with my parents, who broke up years ago. They haven't been together for ages
because of that film.
But like they hadn't seen each other for a while, and then they both came to the premiere, and it was like just a really nice moment. Like I feel like they were proud of me at that moment.
Yeah.
For the film and how it turned out. And the beautiful thing was that, you know, it got well received, and we came out of the premiere. But my lasting memory is of Keb Darge, who taught me to dance. He's an absolute legend. He's a Northern Soul legend. And he just turned to me and he went, yeah, he's Scottish. I won't do a really bad accent, but he was like, yeah. He was like, bearing in mind the director and everyone was like just coming out of the cinema, and he's like, yeah, you were great. Film was shite. And I was just like, I just remember laughing so hard. I was like, obviously he was joking, but just like he has that kind of sense of humor where it was a real like honor to like spend those many years learning with him. He had a real odd technique, but it was great fun.
Moving on, you've collected so many great acting credits, you know, and it was so hard for me actually to pick the films that we're going to talk about. So I figured let's go with another award-winning film, We the Kings, where you acted, you know, alongside Timothy West and Amanda Abington. So how did you get this part?
That one was a bit more straightforward. It was just an audition, and the funny thing was, I'd actually, after Northern Soul, I had great auditions. I was going for really cool stuff, and I came so close to like some really, really cool things, and I got some of those cool things. Mm-hmm. But I was going for a lot of Northerners, even though I'm from the South, and so I was getting slightly pigeonholed by that, which I didn't mind. You know, it's great to work, and so when this role came about, it was like completely different, and it was like he's not a villain, but he's not a nice guy.
Yeah.
Deep down he might be, but yeah, it was a very different role, and I saw it as like a real gear change, and I was like, I want this role. And it was you know, again, it was like Northern Soul. It was in fact a lot lower budget than Northern Soul, and I went in for the audition. I just thought, I'm just going to go in as the character because I'm so far removed from this character. They're never going to cast me if they see me like this. Hello, come in. And so I went in like trying to be this hard nut, and I ended up getting the role. But the weird thing was, and I think maybe because like the film was very low budget, it was like 100 grand all in. And the fact that they had like Timothy West in it, Amanda Abington, as you say, and like amazing script. I think because it's a quite hard subject matter. I think it's not commercial. But you know, I'm not trying to bury my agent at the time, Curtis Brown, but they didn't let me know that I had the role.
In what sense? How did you find out then?
I found out through Facebook. So the director messaged me on Facebook, direct messaged me, and was like, hi, yeah, I know this isn't really a done thing, but like we haven't heard back from your agent, and like we just want to know if you've accepted the role.
Okay.
I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah, still considering.
Yeah, I was trying to act cool. So obviously I had a bit of a riff with my agent at the time. I'm not with them anymore. I wonder why. And yeah, I was like, what happened? They dropped the ball, and they thought I wouldn't want to do it, but they didn't ask me. Yeah, I mean, they were great agents. I think that was just a sort of miscommunication, but yeah, so I ended up doing it, and it was amazing. Like, you know, it's getting to sort of transform or do anything a bit different. Like, it was just a really great role and completely different, and I had great fun on that. And it was, you know, nerve-wracking working essentially in 80% of that film is a two-hander between me and Timothy West. And Timothy West doesn't talk until the last 30 minutes of the film. He's mute. So essentially it's just me talking to myself, talking to Timothy West. So it was a real challenge having to sort of, it felt like a play almost. It was like, it was a real nice part to sort of stretch my legs and see what I could do that was different from Northern Soul.
Yeah. You know, this film also won the best UK feature at Rain Dance. So, you know, and your agent at the time didn't think that you would want to do it. So how do you go about kind of choosing which roles to kind of do, especially when it comes to like lead parts? Because you kind of, I guess, keep the standards high, right?
Yeah.
So how do you go about picking roles, let's say?
I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I pick and choose my roles. Like, for all the actors out there that are struggling, like we're all struggling. It's hard, man. And when a job comes through, sometimes if it's a bad job, or not even a bad job, but like you read it and you go, I don't know if I'm right for this. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy doing this. Maybe the script is just bad. Like there's all those factors. I very rarely turn down a role. That's not a good thing to say, but you know, I don't it's rare that I audition for something that I don't want to like.
Okay.
I will not do the audition if I don't want to do.
Oh
the
yeah,
role.
so you'd rather turn down the audition.
Yeah, because I feel like I don't want to waste the casting director's time. I don't want to waste anyone's time. So you know, if I've auditioned for it and then I get it, I'm gonna do it unless it, you know, for whatever reason it doesn't work out. You know, but you know, at that point I was trying to strategically do roles that were very different. So you know, if something came along and it was like, this is cool, this is different, then I would do it. But you know, sometimes you have to, like, I did a film called Habit, which was set in Manchester. I was back doing sort of, you know, a bit more of a Mancunian accent, so it wasn't like Northern Soul, but it was a Northern accent. And that role, like, it was someone else's role. It was, I'm not going to say who it was, but they had dropped out or something had happened, scheduling difficulties or whatever. And I got a call from Curtis Brown and they were like, so this guy's pulled out. This was on like the Thursday. They're like, can you read this script, get back to us this afternoon? I was like, yeah, cool. And I read it and I was like, this is really different. It was like a horror film. It's about cannibalism. It was like very different. Yeah. And I felt like it was a bit of a risk because I was like, this could go one or two ways, but I was intrigued and I wanted to work with Jessica Barden, and like there was things to it that I thought, this is interesting. And getting my agent, once I was like, I this could be cool. She was like, okay, so you need to get on the train tomorrow. You're going to start shooting on Sunday. I was like, what? It's the lead in a film. She's like, you just start learning the lines as fast as you can. And that's where I go back to, like, you know, when I started and I was at Hollyoaks and I was struggling with the lines. I couldn't have just gone into that situation.
Yeah.
The preparation and the learning from all the other things that I'd done at that point, and Hollyoaks was a massive, like, that was like school for me. So I felt capable. Well, no, I didn't really feel capable doing that role like that, like within, you know, a couple of days. But I did it because I was like, no, I can do this. Like, I've been through harder. Actually, maybe not. That was probably one of the hardest things I had to do. But you know, I'm prepared for this. I can do this. So it just depends, really. Like, that was a kind of quick. I had to decide quickly for that one. But yeah, I always want to strive to play different roles and be, you know, play, like, disappear into roles and play different things and not kind of just go, I can do this Northern Black, it'd be easy. But I think to the detriment of, I've kind of felt like sometimes people don't know where to place me. And like, I did a few films back to back that were all completely different, which I was very proud of, being able to sort of do these different roles. But I think, I mean, I don't know. My girlfriend said this. I'll take it because it's a bit of a backhanded compliment to me. She's like, I think people are confused because you play different roles and they don't realise it's you. Which I'm sure that's not the case, but like, I think it would have been easier if I'd just gone, let's play the Northern guy for 10 years.
Yeah.
And establish myself as that. Then branch off and maybe do We the Kings or something like that. I tried to do everything and do different roles and try and be as versatile as I could. And maybe it wasn't the greatest game plan, but I'm proud of the roles that I've done.
Okay, are you still going with that game plan to play different roles, or
no.
Are you more looking at... So
I would love to eventually, but I think at the moment, you know, if a role comes along and I'm like, I've kind of done that before, I'm like, if it's a good project and I want to work with those people, I'm not going to not do it because, it's not different. You know, that would be throwing away an opportunity. And I think no matter how a job can seem like, you know, I could do that standing on my head, I've done it before. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know the relationships you're going to, you know, bond with people, the experience you're going to have. Yeah. And I think, you know, Michael Caine always said, you know, never say no to any job. But I think sometimes you should say no. But I think when you're like, actually, there's opportunities. If it's a script that you really don't like, don't do it. But I personally think, you know, every job, no matter what it is, there's always an opportunity to be had. And I think I learned that early on in my career, like, grab any opportunity you can and make the best of it and be prepared when that opportunity comes along. Yeah, that's what I would think as well, you know, but maybe it's more, you know, when you're just kind of starting out, you're trying to do as much as possible. But then, you know, in your case, you had very successful projects that you did. How would it, you know, go against your personal branding maybe if you did, let's say, a student short film here, or I don't know. Like I said early on that, you know, when I started, I'm never doing the soap. Like you start to realize you're like, no, but you learn. And maybe now I wouldn't necessarily do a soap because I feel like I did that in Hollyoaks and I really enjoyed it and I was at the right age to do that and I had great fun. But now I know what I want to do, and it's always been film. I've always wanted to do film, and TV is so great these days as well. But a different kind of TV. But I think being picky is good, but I guess you just got to go with what scripts kind of not talk to you, because that sounds wanky, but like, scripts that you read and you go, I want to be that character. I want to be in that situation. I want to fly there. I want to.
Yeah.
I think I definitely did a few turkeys after Northern Soul, and I won't say what they are, but I think most people, if they've seen any of my films, they'll know which ones they are. But sometimes you do a role because you want to work with a particular person, or the character. There's always a reason you do it. You don't just go, I'm gonna just do this because it's a job necessarily. Unless there's times where I was like, I need to pay my mortgage. But I think to be strategic is probably the best thing, but it's, can you hold your nerve?
I see what you mean.
It depends where you are in your career and what's going on at that time, is what I'm trying to say. A very convoluted way of saying that. Like right now I'm kind of happy doing what I'm doing, and I feel like I'm not going to do something just for the sake of it. But I think I've been doing it long enough to know what I want to do and what I don't want to do. But it's a tricky one for sure.
Yeah, makes sense. Talking about more projects, we have to talk about Twist, because over there you had a smaller part, but you got to act with Michael Caine, who is apparently a very famous actor. So how did you feel when you found out that you're going to have a scene with Michael Caine?
And that was one of those ones where you're like, it's a scene. If it was just that scene in a film, you go, there's not much for me to do here. But then when you're like, it's with Michael Caine and it's a dialogue scene, it's like I'm interacting and touching Michael Caine. Do you know what I mean? I'm in. It was great. And I'd worked with Martin Owen, the director, a few times in a couple of other films before that. And so we have a shorthand, and I think, that role was there, and he was like, I know you can come in and do this. And it was a real honor. And I don't need to say, he's an absolute legend. And he really reminded me of my grandpa, which was nice. Yeah. Because I had a very fortunate situation with that whole thing, because I was only in for a day. I was literally, as you say, in one scene. But Rita Ora was in that film, and she was running late. I probably shouldn't say that, but she was running late, and so all the scenes had been knocked, and then my scene was ended up being right at the end of the day, and so we were waiting around for a couple of hours in the green room, and I'm there kind of quite nervous, because I'm like, it's actually, I don't know about you, but I think going in and doing a small role in a big machine where everyone else has already been there for however long and everyone's in the flow of it, doing a scene with someone like Michael Caine, the preparation in comparison to doing Northern Soul, you had 2 years of I'm going to be this character, I'm going to do this, and you're the lead, and it feels like everything kind of is working around your character. This was
come
in and do a casual scene with Michael Caine. I was more nervous for that than being a lead in a film, because I was like, I'm prepared, but I'm not as prepared as I would have been for being the lead in this film. So it was nerve-wracking, but he came into the green room because it was all running a bit late, and this was what made it, not even getting to do the scene with him or being on set with him or anything else. It was, he came into the green room an hour before we were shooting that scene, and he came down, and we were just chatting for an hour before we did the scene, and I was like, right, that's calmed me down, just chatting to Michael Caine. This is surreal. And so that was just that. You can't pay for that. You can't get that in an audition. That was I wish I had my podcast. I wish I could have gone can we just record this, because this is amazing.
Pull the mic out.
So that was amazing, and doing the scene with him was great. And he, as you say, you mentioned working with John Hannah, working with people that are seasoned, they've been around for a long time. they just have, sometimes they just have a way about them. They make you comfortable.
Yeah.
And he did, and we did the rehearsal, and I was really like crowbarring, trying to be like, bring everything out of this small role and trying to make it the best I could. And when we were doing the rehearsal, he laughed halfway through and broke character, and he's like, "That's good, that is." And that made me then feel like, okay, I'm meant to be here.
Yeah.
I'm not Michael Caine, but I'm meant to be here opposite him doing this, and I shouldn't be nervous because at the end of the day, we've got the same job. I mean, I know he's Michael Caine, but it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. Really, as brief as it was.
Yeah, I think we can just go past it. What did you chat with Michael Caine?
All kinds of. No, the one thing that I was essentially, it was before I started my podcast, A Life in Film. So
shout out.
Shout out. So, actually I would have 100%, I would have been like, any chance you want to come on my podcast? I would have grabbed that opportunity while you got it. But, that was before I'd started it. It was before the pandemic. And, but we essentially, that was kind of what we chatted about. I was like, I'm just really in, like, if you're kind of chill, like.
So was it like acting conversation? Was it day-to-day life?
Advice, and I was like, well, I was essentially interviewing him, but in like a casual way. Trying not to be like obvious, like recording it under the seat. But we chatted about it because I one of the first questions I had for him, I was like, what was it? I've heard stories about Jack Nicholson, and I know you've worked with Jack.
Yeah.
And we chatted a little bit about that because he essentially he retired. He was saying he retired from acting, and I can't remember exactly when this was. It might have been like late 80s. I can't remember exactly. But he essentially was like, yeah, I'm kind of done. And Jack Nicholson pulled him out of retirement. He's like, no, you need to come and do this role with me in this film. And he was chatting about Jack Nicholson and all those antics and like mad. So yeah, just like I wanted to sort of pick his brains really. I mean, he was probably like, fucking hell, who's this guy? Like, yeah. No, he was really chilled out. And as I say, he reminded me of my grandpa, which instantly put me at kind of ease and made me feel comfortable really.
Yeah.
But yeah, he gave the advice. He was a lot of things I'd heard in interviews actually, like, he gives the advice of, choose an eye to look at.
Yeah.
And when you're doing a scene with someone and all these little sort of tidbits, and I was just lapping it up.
Yeah.
I loved it. And I remember that more than the actual shooting of the scene, but yeah, he was a true gent. And I can't believe how long ago that was, because I heard the other day that he's just had his birthday and he's nearly 90, I think. I was like, shit, that's like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy, man. But he, if we've got time, I've just got one story that I thought, of course, I think is quite funny. So essentially, and this is secondhand, but it was the director of that film telling me, and it just cracks me up. But it was about Michael Caine. So they were shooting that film for like 8 weeks, I think. And Jude Law's son was in it, Raph Law. He played the lead, played Oliver Twist, essentially. And so Jude Law came down to set one day, and Michael Caine's done Sleuth with Jude Law, so they know each other. So essentially, Jude Law comes to set. He comes to see Michael Caine, and this is it's before lunch. They have a lovely little chat in his trailer, and they, it's great. They haven't seen each other for a long time. And apparently, someone had, like, the heating was left on in Michael Caine's trailer, and he had a little nap. He had a little nap after lunch. They woke him up, and he was a bit confused because he'd like the heating was on full blast, and he's in there, and he's like, fucking hell. And apparently, he woke up, and he was like, the director's like, are you right, Michael? You look a bit out of sort. Are you okay? And he'd just woken up. He's like. This is Martin could do a much better impression of Michael Caine, but he was like, so I woke up and I thought I'd died and gone to hell. Martin was like, what? He's like, yeah, the heat
was so hot.
Yeah, it was so hot. And Martin basically continued to be like, oh, yeah, did you have a nice catch up with Jude? And he was like, Jude who? And he was like, Jude Law, he came to see before lunch. He's like, I haven't seen Jude in years. Apparently, Prince didn't remember it.
Didn't remember any of that?
Because like he'd been fried from this heat. Apparently, it was like 35 degrees in there, and he was like out of his mind. But yeah, man, you got to look after people that age. You can't be cooking them in the trailers.
Yeah.
But apparently, he was like, because I was there for like seconds in comparison to the shoot, but they said that he was just incredible. Never like forgot his lines even after his hot lunch. And was just like so on the ball, and he's like he was in his mid-80s back then, still just smashing it out the park. But yeah, a real honor.
Yeah, that's a great story about Michael Caine. But yeah, lastly, I wanted to talk about the Netflix film The War Below. You know, I feel like there is this kind of thing going on that people who are not in the industry, they think you're not an actor unless you've been on Netflix or something, you know. So how did that feel to have a film coming out on Netflix finally? Was that like a kind of like a milestone you wanted to reach?
I mean, yeah, everyone wants to be on Netflix because it's just got such a big audience, hasn't it? Everyone watches it, and you know, like a new show like Baby Reindeer, which has just come on, things like that. Everyone's watching it at the same time, and it kind of feels like TV did back in the 90s. Like, did you watch Gladiators this Saturday?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like everyone's watching it. So for sure, yeah, no, definitely. But the weird thing with that film was that it wasn't a Netflix film originally, and it got kind of a small pre-release before that. And then I think because it got good reviews, I don't know what happened, Netflix then picked it up, and then it became a Netflix film. So I think sometimes that happens quite a lot with Netflix. They kind of find films that they like, and they go, oh, we're going to use that one, we're going to take that one. Yeah, for sure. It was really nice to have it on there and get that audience. And that film was like super low budget. Hopefully it doesn't look super low budget, but it essentially was talking about budgets with like Northern Soul was 1.3, We the Kings was 100 grand. The War Below was in between, so it was 600 grand.
Okay.
And the director, who's amazing, John, he does special effects and stuff, and this was his first directorial like feature film debut. And we all, not that we get paid a huge amount for a film like this anyway, but you know, everyone got paid the same. We all took a cut from what we would normally get paid to keep the budget low. He did all the special effects himself by hand on like 2 laptops. And so like we didn't know what it was going to look like. We had no idea. And I remember I was working with Sam Hazeldine, who's the lead in The War Below, on a different film, as we both got the audition for this one. And we were both like, because it said the budget, it said 600 grand for a World War II drama. And we were both like, I mean, the script from what we'd seen was amazing. And we were like, how are they going to pull that off? I just don't know how. I don't know enough about budgets to know if they can even, if it's possible. And we didn't know at the time that the director was essentially going to do all of it himself by hand. It took him months. But saved it like half the budget apparently. Okay. So like John is a wicked writer. He's a great director, and special effects, he could like pull them out his ass. Like he's so good. And I really want to work with him again. He's one of the nicest guys. But yeah, no, that film was a great experience. And me and Sam Hazeldine were coming back from this other job, and I was very fortunate at the time. I was, it was before all the nonsense with the pandemic and the strikes. Yeah. And, I was working fairly regularly and really loving it. And, we were coming back from this other job on the train together, and we were coming back down to London, and we'd both sent in our tapes, and they'd essentially offered the roles to both of us, and we found out like pretty much at the same time. And we were both like, mate, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Wow, like, that's pretty cool.
And like, I really wanted to do it anyway, because I just thought the script was wicked. But I was just really worried that I just didn't know how they were going to do it with that budget. So we both like, essentially, we both got the role at the same time. But that was a funny one, because I didn't even go for the audition for that. I knew nothing about it, and Sam had gone for it, and he was talking about it on set, and he was like, "Oh yeah, no, it's a really good script." He mentioned the budget was low, but if they could pull it off. And I don't know if he got, because the film got delayed. There was a few things where it didn't happen, that it did happen, everything else. But essentially, I got a message from a guy that I'd worked with on another film years back. And like, I barely know the guy, but really kindly, he said he'd gone in for The Wall Below, and he'd gone for the role that I ended up getting. But he messaged me, he was like, I fucked the audition completely, man. And he was like, but I just want you to know that in the audition, they had like a list of actors that they want, like the sort of the example of who the role is. And weirdly, Sam Hazeldine was the example for the lead.
Oh, okay.
I was the example for the character I ended up playing, which I was like, that's a huge honor that they've...
Yeah. So in case you would turn down, then the other guy would...
but they didn't even contact me.
Oh.
So I didn't know about it. And
why do you think that happened then?
I don't know. It's really weird. And Tom Goodman Hill was also, he was in it, and he was the example. And they ended up casting obviously Sam and Tom. And yeah, I didn't get an audition for it. Weirdly. I don't know. Maybe I was having a riff with my agent at the time. I can't remember. I wasn't with the agent I'm with now, but I don't know. It's weird. So yeah, essentially, I didn't get an audition for it, but then I heard it through the grapevine, and my mate messaged me and went, "They've used you as an example. Have you not auditioned for it?" I was like, "No, I haven't heard anything about it."
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So you're just like, yeah, a bit like the agent thing before. I think there's a miscommunication. I don't know what happened. And then I rang my agent, obviously, and I was like, there's this role, and apparently they're using me as an example. Like, they basically said, Elliot, Northern Soul, this is what the kind of vibe we're going for this character. Because it was also a Northern role as well. And my agent was like, oh, cool, yeah, no, we'll look into this then. And then I got an audition, and I did the tape while I was with Sam on this other set.
Okay.
And then like did a couple of auditions, and then got the role. And it was like, that was such a sliding, like if that guy hadn't have messaged me, I wouldn't have really known.
You might have missed it. Yeah.
Sam would have been talking about it, but I wouldn't have like gone, oh, I better ring my agent and see if there's any other roles in it. Like, so, I feel like this, and I know you've had like actors on here, we all say different things, but I think you can believe that you're so talented that you're working and that you're doing well because it's the talent you have and, how good you are, the roles that you've played, but so much of it is luck. Because so many roles don't come to you because of how, if you think you're great in something or whatever, it's sliding doors moments, and like maybe that person didn't do it and then that happened. It's just so much luck involved. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear your story because Northern Soul was found kind of in a very lucky scenario, as well as Hollyoaks. Maybe if you didn't make a joke there, or maybe if you it's so interesting moments in your career. Absolutely crazy. But so did you ever ask the production, like, what was going on? Why was your name there, but you didn't get an audition?
I don't think I did. I think it would have been awkward. They would have been like, was it? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And I would have been like, well, apparently I never saw the proof on paper. Do you know what I mean? But my mate told me.
Maybe he was just hyping you up. Like,
my hype man, just like, you should go for this film. So I don't know, but that's what he told me. But I like to think it's true.
Do you have any fun memories shooting that one?
There's that film was great, and I'm good friends with a lot of that cast still, and I'm actually seeing Sam Clement this weekend, maybe Sam Hazeldine as well. I'm a cheeky Sam Hazeldine meet up. So we're all still mates, and it's quite a few years ago, so that's nice. But I had a great time, but my overarching memory of that film, unfortunately, I got food poisoning. I know exactly what it fucking was. It was a salad, which is mental, in the hotel. And it did me for 4 days. And I was like out both ends. It was just the worst. And like so bad, because I'm sure you're the same. Like, you get a job, there better be like hell or high water stopping you from getting to that. Like, I'm always on time, I'm always prepared, and I'm always like, nothing's gonna stop me from being on that set and letting anyone else get the role that I fought for. And I was hanging out of my asshole. Like, it was, I couldn't move. Essentially I had to call a doctor. I had to go to A&E and get basically a doctor's note to say, so they had to claim the money back on the on the film because I couldn't shoot for like at least I think it was 2 or 3 days because I filmed for a couple of days and then I was like, this is like I'm gonna die.
Wow.
Like, I've never felt so. I remember being in the hotel room going, I actually might die. Like that's how rough. That's how rough I felt. And the worst thing was that when we went to A&E, the doctor gave me a painkiller. What was it? It was cocodamol or something like that to help the pain because it was like stomach pains. I think it was cocodamol, but it was something that basically bungs you up. It stops you, and then that was even worse because then I couldn't go to the toilet, but I had to go to the toilet, and it was like, and that made it worse. So that prolonged it even more. And but we kind of shot the film in sequence. So this was like in the last week, and we were shooting all the trench stuff where all the trenches come down. I'm like covered. I have a fight with a German, and then I'm wrecked. I look like I've lost half a stone because I had half a stone in a week. I was like, it was bad. And so if you ever watch it again, if you've seen it, the scenes post essentially me and Sam in the tunnel, him going, go, leave me, as it's all coming down. I'm like, I can't leave you here. Everything after that, I'm fucked. Like, I'm like hanging out my ass. So I had to, my last day's shoot, I literally had to like pull myself out of bed and shoot all those things. And I'm in all this water and I'm drenched and I'm there like throwing up off it was just the worst. But it looks great in the film because I look absolutely haggard.
Yeah.
I'm like instant like LA diet. Like, but apart from that was the overarching memory because it was so intense. But I love shooting that film. It was really fun. We shot all over the place, like all over England in different locations, and it was a really lovely cast as well. And as I say, John, writer director, was he was just a great guy. So yeah, it was cool, and a lot of the sort of explosions and stuff were practical. So like it was quite fun to get to do all that stuff. And, there's a couple of behind the scenes. I'll send you some stuff if you want to have a look at it. But there's some behind the scenes stuff of explosions that that way, and then that with like John coming and doing all the effects on top of it. I just think he did such a great job.
All kinds of explosions.
Yeah, oh man. That was the biggest explosion. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it was bad.
You know, looking back at your credits, we can see that sometimes working on one project has led to working on another one with the same people. For instance, Martin Owen, how did you kind of form that connection with him that he's been inviting you to be in his movies over and over and over again? Yeah,
the first film we did with each other was, we just got on really well. And similar age. We were similar age, and we would like meet up and go to the gym together, and then when we were like doing movies, we'd go to the gym with each other while we were doing the movies and stuff. So we would like bond, like the bonding in the gym.
Yeah.
And like even like when we were doing like Max Cloud and stuff later down the line, we'd get up at like 4:30 in the morning, go to the gym for 45 minutes to an hour before shooting. It's like, we became friends each time we did a film together, and we even did a documentary as well. What I did a charity MMA fight, and he heard that I was doing this, and he was like, we need to document this. This is stupid.
Wait, you were fighting?
Yeah. He was like, this is stupid. And then, essentially he got the budget together to get a film crew together, and they shot I trained for 4 weeks before this fight, having had previously no experience. And growing from that, we bond over, we watch UFC and stuff, and we had similar interests. So it came from that, and from doing that documentary and doing that fight, I started doing jiu-jitsu and stuff. So it's funny how these things grow, and it kind of other facets of your life. But we've worked together quite a few times.
So was it that you kind of instantly connected as friends, or did it take some kind of work to get there? For example, you work together with the director and you're like, okay, that might be a useful connection for me, so that's why you start going to the gym with him. Do you think there was this kind of dynamic at all, or was it all pure friendship from the beginning?
I think, well, to be honest, I always say grab an opportunity when you see it, but I actually, to be fair with that, we just got on. And, we did a film together and it was fun. And to be fair, it may not look it on paper, on IMDb or whatever, but there was a big gap between us working together the first time and us working together on Killers Anonymous. It was like there was quite a big. There was like years in between. So like we would hang out and go to the gym every now and then. Like we'd watch like UFC, and then I'd message him and like, "Did you see that fight?" Like so we always kept in touch. And then you know, he had this big opportunity with this great cast, and he was like, I've got a part I think you'd be good for, and then that's when we worked together again. I can't remember if maybe even the documentary came before our second film. I think it did. So like that was me going, I'm doing this charity fight, and he's like, we need to document this.
Okay.
So then that kind of grew that, and then we hung out for 2-3 weeks doing that. So yeah, I think like if you naturally get on with someone in the industry, that's great, because you tend to have the same interests.
Talking about networking, how much do you actually kind of try to push yourself to network with people more? Or do you kind of network just along the way, you know, you make a movie, you kind of try to keep in touch? Or do you actually attend events and stuff as well?
Yeah, I mean, like around the Northern Soul release, because we were promoting the film, we were going to Toronto Film Festival and that stuff. Like you go and do like networking events and stuff, but I've never maybe I should have done. I don't know. I've never pushed for that stuff. And if I've got a PR and then they're like, you need to go to this event, I'll go and do it. Like great. But I've always found it uncomfortable pushing to network when you don't really want to network. I shy away from that a little bit. If I feel it and I genuinely like that person or whatever, then yeah, great. I'm cool. Like we can chat like any like person would.
Yeah.
But like when I feel like I'm chatting to someone because I'm trying to get something out of them, I can't do it naturally. I can't.
Yeah, I feel the same. I mean, that's why I'm asking, because a lot of people are saying, yeah, you need to attend this workshop there to network with people.
Some people love it, yeah.
But I'm not that kind of person at all. You know, I kind of, I get along with people well, I feel like, and very easily. So when I work with someone, I kind of end up keeping in touch, but it's not necessarily that I try to push myself to make that connection.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think it can be a bit forced, and you know, if I feel like there's a connection there and I like the guy or the girl, whoever it is, then yeah, cool. But I think you kind of know, don't you? Like people, they say there's that 7-year thing, that if you stay friends with someone for 7 years or more, then they're probably going to be in the rest of your life.
Yeah.
If you don't, then maybe you didn't have enough things in common to sort of keep that relationship.
Yeah.
So I don't tend to push those things. Maybe I should a bit more. Maybe I should be a bit more tactical with it. But I honestly I would rather just do good work and try and get jobs. And if I really enjoy working with someone, then cool, I want to hang out with them or whatever. But like, not to be fake about it. I know a lot of people that definitely are almost getting paid to go to these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you enjoy it, then fine. But I don't necessarily. I love going to like screenings and get to see films and stuff.
Okay.
And stuff like if it's like I get to see movies and then I get to hang out with my mates, cool. But not to go to an event to like schmooze and like that cringes me out, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. If I got invited to something, I mean like the BAFTAs or something, I would definitely go. Because it would be a cool experience. But
yeah,
I don't really want to be doing that every weekend, you know.
Yeah,
I want to be hanging out with my mates.
But what about like simple like emailing casting directors, let's say? Do you do that sort of stuff, or did you used to do that?
No, I never really did that. Again, maybe I should have done, maybe I should. Obviously now with my podcast, A Life in Film.
Again?
Fuck it. You know, obviously I am quite regularly emailing casting directors to see if they'll come on the show. But I very rarely, I mean maybe a couple of times, but I very rarely email a casting director to try and get my foot in the door or get a job or whatever. But maybe I should, because I know a lot of actors do, and it does work. I find it a bit
low key.
Not very good at it.
Low key, that sounds tactical actually. You know, instead of emailing and being like, hire me, you're gonna invite them to your podcast, and that's already kind of the connection. It's
definitely tactical.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start doing that. Yeah, sending out emails, because then they just see you, they kind of gonna remember your face and see that you're working on something, and oh fuck, they don't need me, you know.
Yeah. And I think it's nice as well to, if you have when we have casting directors come on the show, like when the hell do you ever get to chat to a casting director for 45 to an hour?
Yeah.
You don't.
Only with Michael Caine.
Yeah, exactly. That's every other weekend. You know? But yeah, you just don't get to really do that. So it's fun to, not only with actors, but with Well, not with only with the casting directors, but with actors, directors, anyone that's in the film industry. If you're genuinely interested, like you were saying about your guests, like you you like to have guests that you're genuinely interested in. I believe that when you said that to me. But I think, yeah, if you've got someone on there like a casting director, like if you're a fan, it's easy to chat to them, like fanboy a little bit, maybe a bit annoying at times, but you know, you've got to try and hold that back, the fanboy. But you know, I've had people on the podcast that I'm a huge fan of, and it's just fun to get to chat to those people.
Okay, name a few then. Name a few people on your podcast, Life in Film podcast.
Come and watch Life in Film. No, essentially, I feel like you're a rival now. I've seen your setup. I've seen you've got legit cameras, good background. I feel now a little bit tense. But no, yeah, essentially, it's quite similar to this podcast. Not to steal your audience, but if you want to come and have a listen.
Yeah, it's a good idea you have.
I started first. But no, there's a lot of podcasts out there that are kind of a similar format. You know, like I mean, Jonathan Ross and Graham Norton do, like, you know, they have actors come on and they chat about their careers a bit and what the latest thing is that they're working on. The angle that I find, and I think you're very good at this as well, is chatting. Thank you. Is chatting to people and just it being a chat, and as if we're just here having a cup of tea and we're in your living room. We just so happen to be in your living room, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's that thing of just make it, you're a mate, we're chatting, casual, and then I think you get the best out of people. And I've been very fortunate to, I think, because when I started the podcast, it was during the pandemic. We all, you know, felt that in different ways, and you know, we followed that with strikes as well. It's been hard for everyone. You know, people, freelance people as well, actors, people behind the camera. But I just saw that as an opportunity to start a podcast and start chatting to, at first, mates, people that I'd worked with. And hear the story that I hadn't heard. Because, you know, you have a mate, you don't really ever ask them, like, also, actually, how did you start? Like, what? Where was that first thought of, like, actually, I'd give this a go. So it started like that with a couple of mates, and you know, first couple of episodes were terrible. It was really awkward, and like I was nervous, and it wasn't as natural as I hope it is now. But you know, then I grew, and we've been doing it. You know, this is the third season, so now writing off to people, getting more yeses than nos, and our latest episode, which comes out on the 7th of May, check it out, is with Matthew Broderick. So, aka Ferris Bueller. He's a hero of mine.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane.
And it actually really winds me up when my mates, like, I'm like, yeah, I just had Matthew Broderick on the podcast. And they're like, who? I'm like, oh my God. Like, these are my mates that aren't in the film industry. And they're just like, I don't know who that is. And you're like, Simba. Do you know what I mean? I'd show a picture of Ferris Bueller and they're like, oh yeah, kind of. And you're like, this is a big deal to me. So, no, like, it's great getting to chat to anyone about their career and hearing their story. But you know, when it's someone that you've watched as a kid in Godzilla, Inspector Gadget, Ferris Bueller, those are, I mean, I've just named probably not the films he would want me to name, but you know what I mean, the films that I remember from my childhood, and then suddenly you're chatting to them and you're asking them, like, yeah, but what's your advice for going into an audition? And like, how did you get past the times when you weren't working? And they're telling you all these stories, and you're like, this is absolutely insane. I'm going to put this out there into the ether that I want Arnold. Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm the biggest fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger. People like, I mean, obviously it's an insane thing to say, but you know, speak it, it may come true. But yeah, that's my aim eventually, to like just keep going until, I don't know, I can't do it anymore, whatever. But I just want to get to like to speak to all those people that I've looked up to and the people that have influenced me to go into acting, and ask them why and how.
I think you're already quite close to booking Arnold. I'm sure of that. You know, like I'm gonna take some time, but you're already you've got this kind of level.
Mate, you're set. You got a way better setup.
I just got some fake plans. That's all I have.
you got some sort of budget here. Right? The thing is, I've come here today and I've seen your setup and like the way you do it, and like really prepared and everything else. and learn from that. I'm like kind of like, okay, cool, I'm going to take a plant and put it in the background. I'm going to do that. I'm just learning as I go, really.
How do you approach finding and booking guests?
It's a long, drawn-out process of hundreds of thousands of emails. You're like, oh, I've sent out about 10, and I've got most of the people I've sent out to. Whereas I've sent out, I don't know how many thousands of emails. I've got so many no's. There's people that I've been emailing since the beginning.
Okay.
That I'm still emailing now, and then I'm getting close. Like Matthew Broderick was one of the people that I emailed right in the first year.
Oh,
Didn't get him. And then it was only because he's come to London and he's done a show called Plaza Suite. And I was like, he's in London.
Oh, so you met him in person?
No, I didn't meet him.
Oh.
No, they wouldn't let me near him.
Oh, so we're in the same time zone.
He was here and he was possibly going to be promoting that.
Oh, I see.
And I actually got him a bit late because the show was pretty much finishing. And now the episode's not coming out until like next week and the show's finished. But it was still an in. It was like, oh, he's here and he's doing a play in London. I'm in London. Can work that into like maybe getting him. And then that was the thing. That was the switch. They were like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, talk about Plaza Suite. We did for 2 minutes. And then we talked about his career after that. Do you know what I mean? So that was the hook. And I think I just learn every time I email off to someone like the things that work and things that don't. It's not perfect, but I'm trying to sort of fine tune it.
But I see you've been pretty consistent in your kind of schedule. So how do you balance that with your other professional commitments?
Yeah, I've been religious with this podcast because a friend of mine he's quite good with social media and stuff like that. He was like, you just got to be like with the gym. I can see you're a man that goes to the gym.
Thank you.
Gun show.
Steroids. No steroids.
Same. And so like, what was I saying? I threw myself off there. Yeah, no. To be religiously like it's like the gym. It's like you've got to be consistent. And I think maybe I've missed a couple of episodes over the 3-year period where like I've been working or I've not been able to do it because something's on my laptop's blown up or something. Like it's just not physically possible. But like I try to like every couple of weeks new episode. And I mean I've released 80 something episodes. But I've recorded about 120, 130.
Really?
So I haven't released all of them. And like, some of them were so bad because of me. I was like, I can't release that. Or no, there's just been like things where I've like, it was one of the first few episodes where it didn't go very well or whatever it was. And then even sometimes it's just like, I've overdone it. I've recorded too many and I can't physically release them in the time frame. And I've learned from that. And now I'm now recording way less. And I'm picking and choosing a bit more. There was a funny one with Sam Clement, who's a good mate. We did one. It was the first episode. Never released it because it was god awful. Right. And on my part because I was just like blah, 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 blah. I couldn't like it was just awful. And then he did a show called Bridgerton. I was like, Sam, your episode's a bit out of date. Can we kind of like revamp it a bit? Because then I was like, he's got all these followers on me. And he was like, yeah, sure. And then we just recorded the whole thing again. And then obviously it was up to date so I could release it alongside Bridgerton.
Has this podcast journey opened up some new opportunities for you as well? In terms of for acting, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. But it's been great, like obviously talking to casting directors and stuff like that, and it's really nice actually when you have a connection with someone. Not to name names because I don't want to jinx it, but like there's been a couple of actors, a couple of people that I've really clicked with, and it's been great, and done them in person, and those people have got production companies, and I've been writing for the last 12 years trying to get something off the ground. As we said before, everyone's writing something, and. Yeah, it does. I hopefully, fingers crossed, we're early stages, but like one of my scripts is a feature film, and a producer I worked with in the past is hopefully going to direct it, and we've been working together to like, get the script ready for shooting, and having various guests on the show, if I feel like it's appropriate or if we've got on really well, and there is something that I kind of feel like. I would love to send you this script. And I mean, I know sometimes that's crowbarred and it feels like, fucking hell, all right, leave me alone, like hassle or whatever. Yeah. I've only ever done it with guests that I've stayed in contact with, and we've had like a back and forth, and like if we've gotten really well, and I've been like, if you want to have a look at this, like I think this would be great. Blah, blah, blah. So like there's early opportunities that have arisen, but yet to make something of them, but
Yeah.
we'll see. I think it's all good. I think it's all like good to move in that direction and like be respectful, but at the same time, we're all creators that want to create and do good work. And as long as the script is good, which I believe my scripts are, I think there's no reason, if you've got the connection and they're willing to reach out.
If it's a good script, they want to do it as well, as much as you do. So it doesn't hurt to ask, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see what comes of that. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
One of the sponsors for your podcast is a mental health organization called BetterHelp. Why or how did you decide to get a mental health organization on board?
I'm not very savvy with sponsors and things like that. And, I'm told that you can make money from these things, and I didn't really know how to start. And I was very fortunate for a 6-month period. I had an assistant. So I say I was a one-man band and did it all myself. There was a period where it's probably about a year ago or something. I had an assistant who was really helping me with that side of things, the more kind of the bits that I'm not very good at. And she was the one that got me BetterHelp as a sponsor. And I just thought it was a really good fit because we do talk a lot about mental health in the podcast. And I know, like, listening to some of your previous episodes, I know you touch on it as well. And I just think it's a nice fit. It's not like going, we're sponsored by McDonald's. Do you know what I mean? It's something that I feel like it's helping people. And, with this is a real plug now, but like BetterHelp with our podcast, like the way that it works with something like this, like we don't get paid unless people essentially use our code. So we give a 20% code. You get 20% off your first month of BetterHelp. And every person that does that, essentially we feel like at least we're helping someone. It's not like we're taking from people. And I wanted it to be a sponsor that was good and it was doing something, good. And talking about mental health and things like that is something that it's close to my heart. I've had friends that have suffered with it. I've suffered. And I just think it's a really positive and good thing.
Is there anything you do to kind of keep your mental health under control, or do you ever struggle, or have you ever struggled?
We touched on it, but after Northern Soul was filmed, I think I mentioned, but there was like a 2-year gap where I just didn't work at all. Yeah. And I was there putting the weight back on because I was like really skinny for the film and stuff, and I'd kept that weight off, and I went to the doctors and because I was feeling really bad, like depressed, anxiety. It was like the worst period of my life. And I was in my sort of 25, 26. And I'm glad to say I'm past that now. I feel great now. And there are some things that really helped me. And one of them was talking to people. So like if BetterHelp, I don't know if BetterHelp was around then, but that would have been a great thing for me. I did a similar thing and it was a different company. I can't remember what it was called. But like exercise, key for me. I have to have at least 3 fights a week.
Are you serious?
So I go, basically I do jiu-jitsu. So I need to have a physical fight at least 3 times a week to keep me level.
Was that during Northern Soul? What happened to your wrist?
Yeah, but that would have made more sense. But no, ever since doing the documentary about doing the sort of MMA 4-week challenge, do a fight, I did the bare basics learning for that, and I was like, I'm not very good at stand up and boxing and stuff, but I really enjoyed jiu-jitsu. It's like a puzzle. And so that really helps me, man. Like I just love, like, it's just a real like learning, like every time you go there you're learning something new, and it's a real challenge. And I think part of being dyslexic and learning was always a thing that I wasn't very good at school. So to go and do a physical activity where I feel like I'm actually good at it and I can pick things up, that's really good. But not only that, just going to the gym and keeping mentally and physically fit as well.
Yeah.
As I said, I've already commented on your guns, but like you obviously keep yourself in good shape, and I think, is that something for you as well that you feel like helps?
I go to the gym, just to feel better as well. It's not necessarily for appearance. Of course, there's a part of that where I want to look fit, but that also makes you feel better about yourself when you look good, and I think that's just the best thing you can do for yourself is take care of yourself. The first time I went to the gym I was in 10th grade, I think. I don't know what it is in the UK, but I was maybe 16 because I used to be super skinny, like very skinny. Like I was like a small anchovy, you know, I was just tiny. I was getting slightly bullied because of it. So I started going to the gym, bulked up, and nobody ever picked on me. It's crazy how it works. So, you know, even if I didn't go to the gym for mental health at first, it was beneficial to me because it stopped people from bullying me.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it's a great, there's many reasons why you should do it, but I just feel like it just perks up your mood, doesn't it?
Yeah, exercising is always good. Like endorphins are so real, I think.
No, 100%. If I go on holiday or something, like, cause my partner's always like, God, do you have to like, because I don't break from the regime. Like we went to Thailand recently, and I was even going and doing jiu-jitsu out there.
Oh, really?
And she was like, do you really want to do that with these people that look like they've been doing it their whole lives? I was like, yeah, I do. And it's just it's having being an actor and having a regime and having a structure, I think is, for me anyway, personally, is so important, and the gym is definitely part of that, and jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that's what I talked with Paul, you know, the previous guest, that in this industry where nothing is predictable, you need to have some sort of regime yourself. Either it's the podcast that I'm trying to keep up, or exercising, the simplest thing out there, I think.
100%.
So what else do you enjoy doing in your free time?
I just, as I said at the beginning, I'm just a massive film fan. So like cinema, I've even like, this makes it sound like I've got loads of money. I don't have loads of money, but I have priorities.
Yeah.
I made a cinema room in my house in the loft.
Okay.
So like I've got a projector, and like we watch movies on this like big screen, and like I just love that. That's like and going to the gym, and and just I just love films and kind of just enjoying usually older movies, but like 70s, 80s, 90s movies that like occasionally there's a good film that comes out. I saw Monkey Man the other day. I don't know if you've seen that, but
no, I haven't.
Fair play, Dev Patel. Fair play. He's written, directed, produced, and he's in it.
Okay.
And the fight sequences are insane, and he's brilliant in it. Obviously, he's always great.
Let's go to another section, deep question section. What advice would you give to a younger version of yourself who wants to become an actor?
I feel like everything that's happened in my career has happened for a reason, and even if there's been good or bad times, it's like everything kind of happened for a reason. As we've talked about, there was a lot of luck involved with some of the key moments, and I think any advice would have altered that, and it would have changed it, and maybe I wouldn't be still doing it, and I'm very fortunate that Hollyoaks afforded me to buy my flat, which I lived in for 12 years, and that then afforded me to not have to have a full-time job. And so if you change even that first job, saying that joke in that audition room and not getting Hollyoaks, because I've never been paid that much for anything before or since having that long employment. Yeah. And only because I saved like a madman. I then now have this asset where I can rely on that if I don't work. So I can focus on the things that are important, writing scripts, auditioning, now the podcast. Everything happens for a reason, I think. Okay. And I think as long as if I'm gonna force advice out of myself, it would be don't half-ass it. Okay. Always be prepared and do it because you love it. Don't do it for any other weird reason. Some people do it for fame, or they do it for, I don't know, but like if you don't love making, well, in my case, movies or whatever it is that you're into, theatre, then are you doing it for the right reasons?
What's the best advice you've ever heard or received?
That advice I just gave. I think it's one that you probably, everyone knows, but like I remember seeing a clip of Bryan Cranston. He was saying that, you go into an audition and, you really want that part, but at the end of the day, you've got to go in there and just do your best work. Do your interpretation of that role, and then leave it behind, because you walk out of the room and you're torturing yourself. It's not helping to get the role. It's not helping anyone, really. I think the piece of advice he gave was like, go in there and just do your very best and just do the work. And that's something that I try, and whenever I do an audition, then most of them are on tape now, unless you get callbacks. But I think it's just you can't beat yourself up. You've just got to do what your interpretation is and leave it at that. And if you're not right for it, you're not right for it. But sometimes you get lucky.
So what's the worst advice you've ever heard or received?
I don't know if I can say this.
I want to hear it now.
This is the worst advice. I shouldn't really say this, but yeah, I'm not going to name who it is. But yeah, my mate and any of my mates that listen to this will know who this is because I'm going to do the voice, and the voice is known. They'll know who it is. My mate Stu, who like when I left Hollyoaks, he was like, oh yeah, he was like, mate, yeah, fuck it, you've left Hollyoaks now, you should get bang on the coke, mate. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, best time to get on the coke, mate. You just like left Hollyoaks. I'm like, when I have no money, like. I mean, it's not my bag. It's not my thing. And I was just like, that is a sound bit of advice you just give.
Did you ever consider it?
No, not for a second. I was like, coming from you, Stu, if you like, I mean, if you're inclined to do those sort of drugs, which I'm not, I'm too into my fitness and stuff. But like, if you were inclined to do that sort of thing, you'd want to do it when you're in Hollyoaks, I think, not when you're unemployed with no money and a big mortgage to pay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much to the people watching, listening. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Make sure to check out Elliot. His work is absolutely amazing. Make sure you come back. Peace.